Welcome back to the Meeple Marathon. Today we're going to be talking about how to set up and play the new Works of Wonder expansion for Architects of the West Kingdom. Now, technically, I have set up this entire board to include Age of Artisans, but we're not going to go over that expansion. I'll highlight a little bit of that in my playthrough. My playthrough is going to cover everything that is offered for Works of Wonder, so the full solo experience. But for now, we're just concentrating on how to set up and then how to play the specific additions that Works of Wonder brings. So if you have the playmat, just roll it out and everything is there that you need to. And one thing that is nice is like you no longer need the overlay over the guild hall if you're playing artisans, unless you prefer having the little dual layer player board, which is nice to keep the meeples in place, but you don't need it. Technically, these additional symbols and whatnot are there. Also, this, which was added in Age of Artisans, which is just a card that you place over. But if you are playing the Tome Saga expansion, you will need to place down those extra things. But other than that, the playmat has everything you could possibly need. What we're going to be focusing on mostly is this over. So your board normally goes from like up to here, and then at the guardhouse it crosses over. So there's no spots for artisan cards or the Works of Wonder cards. The playmat, though, offers those spots. But the expansion board is pretty much everything you see here. So it's a new track, this track in blue, which is Influence. It's the Princess and the Profiteer. And it's the contribution cards, which on the other side we'll see is going to tell us some information about how the Princess and Profiteer could affect us. It's also adding in a whole new row, and I guess we could go ahead and start filling these out. A whole new column, for apprentice cards, and then it gives you a spot for your draw pile here. So that's pretty much it. It's very straightforward. You are going to want to, once you've got your apprentices dealt out here, you're going to place your Wonder cards, and it's the same 4 cards. They're double-sided, but they're the same on each side. You're either going to want to place those above your board or here if you have the playmat, and then place the actual large meeples, I guess you could say, the wooden structures behind those cards, so that when someone claims the card, they're also going to get the statue or the fort or whatever it is. For now, you can put the Princess and the Profiteer on top of their pictures, and you're going to want to shuffle up the contribution cards here and put them with this side facing up. And you will notice that this side of the card is always the same, but what's on the other side does change. All right, and then as far as setup for this particular, for the Works of Wonder, the expansion gives you a whole extra set in each player color of these flags. And so this is one of the new player boards that comes with the Works of Wonder expansion. You'll notice that he has a starting point for influence. He's got a starting point for virtue. He's got a starting point for influence. His just happens to be at 0. He's starting with 3 people in jail, 4 silver, and 3 brick. This side is not, but they actually recommend when you're playing solo with all the expansions to use the variable setup side. But so at least to begin with, let's make sure we're using a player board from the expansion so that we know where to start with on the influence track. I don't know if they're going to come out with an errata that says, all right, so all previous characters that don't have an influence starting point, if they're going to give them one, I think it would be pretty easy. I'm sure somebody's going to come up with it at some point. So eventually, I think you'll be able to use all of the player boards. So you're going to set out your flag just like you would do for Virtue, and then you would set the other ones here for Cathedral. But this is unique to the expansion. And then the last thing really that you need to do is go ahead and take the top contribution card and flip it over and place it below the Profiteer and the Princess. The top line here is going to tell us where they're going to hang out for the first few rounds of the game. So the Profiteer is going to go to the guardhouse right here, and the Princess is going to go to the silversmith. All right, So that's setup. Setup is not very difficult for including the expansion. Neither was Age of Artisans. It's pretty straightforward. If you're familiar with the setup of Architects off the top of your head, you could easily do this. I realized I didn't shuffle those up. All right, so now let's talk about what this expansion is adding. So first, let's talk about the Profiteer and the Princess. They are going to stay at these locations that they are assigned to until there's a black market reset. When you place a worker in the same location as the Profiteer, you will immediately gain 1 influence. Boop. All right, but at a black market reset, any workers, you can see all players that are with the Profiteer are sent to jail. Similar to all players that are in the black market, all players that are with the Profiteer, everybody goes to jail. But if you go to the town center to gather people up, and you gather people from the Profiteer, you will gain a virtue. All right, so you're gaining influence by going and dealing with the Profiteer because he knows everybody, so he's able to spread your name around, but also he's a little bit of a shady character. So if you get caught with him, you're going to go to jail, or if you catch other people with him, you're going to be the more virtuous. The Princess, however, is slightly different. When you go to the location with the Princess, you don't gain anything immediately, but you have the option to contribute to this card up here. And like I said, the back sides of these cards, the contribution side, are exactly the same. And what you're going to do is you're going to, when you go to the Princess, it doesn't matter where she is located, you may choose one resource that you have in your supply and add it to this card here. And this card can only hold 1 of each type of resource. But you can see if you donate, say, a brick, you're going to gain 2 influence. So similar to going to the Profiteer, you gain influence. As long as you contribute when you go to the Princess, you're going to be gaining double influence. But also you can see down here, if you do gold, you're going to also gain a virtue, and if you do marble, you're going to gain a reward card. This is one part of the setup that I failed to mention, that there's no longer a certain number of reward cards based on player count. You just shuffle up the whole stack and stick it there, because now you can gain reward cards for a whole bunch of other stuff. So there's no a set number of reward cards. You just use them all now. When a black market reset happens, similar to with the Profiteer where everybody goes to jail, if you have the most workers with the Princess, you're going to gain this benefit here. So all workers with the Profiteer go to jail. The most workers at the Princess, in this case, would gain 2 virtue. If there's a tie for most, you both get it. But if it's a case of, say, drawing building cards or things like that, you go in player order. Whoever's turn it is gets to go first, and you go around the table claiming the rewards. So that's pretty much the Princess and the Profiteer. Again, when a black market reset happens, these guys are going to change locations. So let's just say, for example, we have been playing out a few rounds here, and we have placed down 1 of each type of resource on this contribution card. That is going to trigger a black market reset. It doesn't matter how many people are over here. There could be 0 people over here. But again, when that happens, these guys go to jail. These guys go to jail. And you do the normal stuff, like you're going to flip over this card. People with black market, but people with black market reset, there's nobody out here, but apprentices that affect the black market reset, they're going to be triggered. And again, you are going to look to the Profiteer's location, put his people in jail. You're going to look to the Princess's location, give a bonus to whoever has the most there. Then you're going to take each one of these resources and place them up on the Wonder card. So you, in making a contribution, you are contributing towards the Wonder. The easiest one to think about it is the statue here. This is, say, a statue of a former governor or something like that. And so you are putting up gold to help build this golden statue. You may not be the one who actually gets to put the finishing touches on it, but you got a little something for contributing towards it. So those resources go up onto those specific cards. And if you notice, the Wonder cards only need one type of resource. And it depends on, the brick fort here or firehouse or whatever it is only needs brick, but it needs 15. 12 wood, 14 stone, 6 gold, 8 marble. And so those resources are going to sit there on top of those cards until someone actually builds them, and they're going to get to use those resources. So if there's 4 gold sitting on top of this statue card, you could build the statue for just 2 gold, 4 influence, and 2 coins that would go to the tax. So we've taken these resources, we've placed them up here on the cards, and then we're going to take this top card and we're going to flip it over. This is going to give us new locations. So the profiteer is going to the silversmith and the princess is going to the workshop. And so you can see here, there's even more of a penalty for going to the profiteer and being caught there when a black market reset happens. Not only do all your people go to jail, but anybody that's here loses a virtue. If you have the most workers at the princess's location, you can either flip a debt or gain a marble. Okay, and also during black market reset, all the stuff about having 3 people or more in jail, you lose a virtue, and the most gains a debt. All that stuff still happens. So all we did was add stuff to the black market reset. We made it a little bit more complicated, but it's not bad. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the princess and the profiteer. I already basically touched on the Works of Wonder cards, but just so you understand that these are considered buildings at the end of the day. For all intents and purposes, you have to go to the guild hall to take a build action to build a Works of Wonder. They can have adornments attached to them just like a building. You're going to score those VP as buildings at the end of the game. Now, I already spoke about how you go about building them. You have to have, the amount of resources, which is large. You have to have those in your supply, minus what's already on the card. But then you also have to have the proper amount of influence and coin that's going to go to the tax in order to build a specific wonder. When you do, you're going to gain 2 virtue, no matter which one, instantly. And then you're going to take this card, it's going to go by your player board, and you're going to again get to take the Meeple, the building Meeple, and place it at any location you want that doesn't already have a Work of Wonder attached to it. Now there are a few locations that you can't stick them at. The main one really is just the mines. I'm not 100% sure why, but you can't put a wonder, I guess maybe because the mines are underground, who knows. But you can't put a wonder here. You can't obviously put one at the guild hall. You can't put one at the tax stand or the black market. But pretty much everything else is available. What the Work of Wonder is giving you then, other than just buku victory points at the end of the game, is essentially it acts as an additional worker if you go to that location, or if you don't want to use them as an additional worker, they will give you an instant virtue. So a little bonus, and that's just for you. So if you have the red cathedral card in front of you, you're the only one that's going to benefit from going to the red cathedral location. Other people can go there, they're just not going to get this benefit at the bottom. And that is, pretty much it for the Works of Wonder. A few other things to discuss is that this virtue track is not just for gaining and then spending on Works of Wonder. There's a few other things you can do. Influence. There's a few other things you can do with your influence. First of all, you'll see there's 2 points on the influence track here that as you cross over them, going up, you'll gain a building card. Just top building card, draw it, keep it, do whatever you want with it. If at any point you go down in influence and then you go back up, you draw another card. You could do this. You could go up, lose an influence somehow, and then come back up all in the same turn and draw 2 cards from it. So just keep that in mind. Those are at these 2 locations and can be triggered multiple times throughout the game. The other thing here is that you can spend influence. You can spend influence to not lose a virtue. Say you go to the tax stand and you don't want to lose 2 virtue. You could say, all right, I'm going to lose 2 influence or even 4 influence to go to the tax stand for free. Maybe you have built up so much influence, you're all the way here at the top, and you're like, I cannot be any more influential. I literally can walk into the tax stand and rob them blind, and no one will even care. So you would just bump down there. And then say the next turn, you gain a little influence back, you get to draw a card, just like that. You can also do it for 2 less coins. So essentially, again, you could be all the way up here at 12. You go to this middle black market location, spend 4 influence, and not have to pay anything to go here. Or only pay 1 coin to go here. Or pay nothing to go here. So you can also, last thing is, pay 4 influence. So it was 2 influence to not lose a virtue or cover 2 silver, and it's 4 influence to cover a gold or a marble. So, again, if you were all the way up here at 12, and say, let's just say, for example, there's 2 marble on that mausoleum marble thing. There's 2 already there, and you have 4, so you're 2 short. You're 2 marble short of getting to that. You could spend 8, which would take you all the way down to 4, and still have enough to cover the 3 that you need, as long as you had, I'm assuming, 3 coins to also put into the tax. You could effectively gain the marble pillar that way. So, very important stuff. Also, at the end of the game, whoever is highest on the influence track gains 4 gold. That's pretty much just for endgame scoring, because you get 1 point per gold you still have sitting on your player mat. All right, so that pretty much covers how to play and utilize the Works of Wonder expansion content. The biggest thing, in my opinion, however, that Works of Wonder has brought to us is the new and improved solo AI. So let's zoom down on that board and take a closer look at what we need to know to set up for this AI and how we go about working them. Okay, so here we have one of the new AI player boards. If you are familiar with Paladins of the West Kingdom, this player board is going to look quite similar. And something to note is that they are double-sided. So here we have the Aristocrat on one side and the Enforcer on the other. And if you notice here, there's a lot of differences. This line along the bottom is going to be different. This is going to be different. Their constant rewards are going to be different. So, their starting stuff is going to be different. So keep that in mind. There's lots of variety here. You're always going to start with this marker here on the leftmost dot there. Other than that, for setup, the only thing you need to keep up with is that there's variable starting locations for virtue and influence. There is a player power. In this instance, anytime he sent captured people to jail, he was going to gain a marble. And also there's this symbol here. Sometimes you're going to see this on the AI action cards that basically says, okay, do this. If you can't do anything else, do this. And each one of these, again, is specific to that particular AI. And similar to the base game AI, you're going to have some starting AI cards. They're going to have the brown border here at the top, and you're going to have some advanced ones that have the dark gray borders. You're going to separate those out, give them both a shuffle, and you're starting with just the basic ones. On the AI's turn, you're simply going to, just like you used to, flip this over and go top to bottom. But now we have these icons in red here. And so I'm not going to go over every single one of these, but this, and it essentially, it just makes the AI more intelligent. It gives you a yes or no question, and if you answer yes, you're going to take this top action. If not, you're going to take the bottom action. And there's some where there's like 3 actions you can take. In this instance, you're going to look and see, is there 2 of the AI's workers in jail? At least 2. If yes, you're going to go to the guardhouse and take 1 action per meeple using their guardhouse action priority, which may be different than someone else's guardhouse action priority. However, if, like at the beginning of the game, you don't have any workers in jail, you're going to come down here to the black market, and if you're familiar with the solo AI, this should be pretty standard. Let's take a look at another one here. All right, so here we go. Does the AI have 5 influence or less? In this case, actually, they do. We manipulated this, and it was sitting on 5, but in this case, yes. So you're going to go to the princess's location and make a contribution. How do you know which contribution you're going to make? Well, that depends on where this marker is at the time. If we're here, we're going to try and make the brick contribution. If we can't make the brick contribution, we'll try for wood, then we'll try for stone, then we'll try for gold, then we'll try for marble. And anytime the AI makes a contribution to the contribution card, it comes from the main supply. Even the marble does not come from their supply. But say they have more influence than 5, because remember, they're going to gain 2 influence for making a contribution. Then they're going to go to the town center and wrangle up some people. Let's just take a look at another one here. Here's a good example, because, okay, they want to go to the town center, but only if the juice is worth the squeeze are they going to go there. So is their location and where my workers, there's at least 4 of? It's the beginning of the game, so no. I haven't accumulated 4 people anywhere, so in his opinion, it's not worth it going to the town center to wrangle me up. He will skip down here, and then you will see he will do his action here. So he'll go to the town center, and he'll either, from the town center, because this is unique to him, he can send people to jail because he's the enforcer, or he can wrangle people up. So ironically enough, the enforcer, you know, this card here, he goes to the town center no matter what. But if we were playing on the aristocrat side, if she couldn't go to the town center and wrangle me up, she would go to the princess's location and make a contribution. So again, variety, variety, variety. All right, so the adding of advanced cards in this instance works the same. Anytime you're told to add a card, you know, this symbol for the AI means add in an advanced scheme card. You would take the top one of the deck, you'd add it to the discard pile, and eventually it's going to be shuffled in with the rest. So that's pretty much the same as the base game. Now, let's take a look at this advanced player board here with this, you know, with these arrows and everything else. Anytime the AI is gaining something that's not marble, they pretty much are going to move this along the track. Similar to paladins, anytime that they would gain a resource, they would push their marker along the track, eventually looping back around, and they would get a little bump in one of their virtues in that game. In this instance, anytime you would gain a silver, you would push this one. Boom, boom, boom. And if you're here at the end and you need to push it, it comes back around and you gain a marble for making the loop. So if you say are at the top of the virtue track and you're told you can flip a debt or remove a debt, and you have no debt to remove, you would get 2 silver. So you go boom, boom. Or say you are told to draft an apprentice. You don't draft apprentices. Instead, you get 2 silver. Say you are told to add an advanced scheme card to your scheme deck discard pile, but the scheme draw pile is empty, 1 silver. Or anytime you are told to gain a silver, move 1. if you are supposed to gain a reward card, like for example going to the cathedral, you instead gain a virtue. And if you're at the top of the influence track and cannot accept any more influence, you would gain a virtue. And gold, if you were to gain a gold, instead gain a marble. Okay, so all that's pretty self-explanatory, but where you are on this track also helps make the AI make decisions similar to paladins. So for example, if you are here at the wood location, not only are you going to focus on contributing wood, if a contribution comes up, you're also going to focus on the wooden wonder, if building a wonder is the action that you're asked to take. You're also which which apprentices you are going to discard if you are told to take that action. So in this case, he would get rid of these two right here. If he was over here, he would go all the way down to the end. It also tells you which adornment they're going to claim. So if we are here, they're going to take the rightmost adornment. If they're all the way here at the first place, they're going to take the top adornment from the adornment draw deck. Okay, so this track serves a ton of purposes, and if you're familiar with paladins, this should be very familiar to you. Last but not least, down here, similar to what we saw in the base game, but again, they have changed this up for every single different AI player. It tells you where they want to prioritize getting workers when they capture workers. Again, it's always most workers, and then it's usually princess, but then from here on, it usually changes. Also, you can see these blue burst symbols above them. Tells you where they want to build their wonder or place their wonders. So if the aristocrat here is able to build a wonder and she can put it anywhere she wants, she's going to put it at the town center. Let's say the town center, I've already placed a wonder there and it's not available. She's going to try for the silversmith. Then she's going to try to go to the king's storehouse, then the guardhouse, and then the workshop. All right, so everything you need to know. I know this is a very busy looking board, but at the end of the day, it's beautifully crafted because everything you need to know to make a decision for the AI so that it plays intelligently is on this board. And really the only difference at the end of the game for end game scoring is the fact that the AI now technically has buildings they can score. Those are only going to be wonder buildings. And that's the only difference between the standard game AI scoring and this one. If you've got Age of Artisans, obviously you'd be heading into adornments. You're going to gain VP for your virtue track. Technically, if they're at the top of the influence track, they're going to gain 4 gold that will score. They're going to get bonus points for workers in the guild hall, things like that. And they also, they still continue to put people in the guild hall if they're building a wonder. If they're building on the cathedral, they're still going to go to the guild hall and fill that up. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Not too overly complicated. From a glance, it can seem very complicated. This can seem very complicated, but trust me, this is such a better AI system than it was before. I felt like before it was basically like capture, 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 and then guild hall to push the game along, to give you a timer. Now they're like making smart decisions where it's not always just guild hall capture, guild hall capture. They're not going to go out there and just capture one of my people. It's not worth it to them. And they're also not just going to go after the highest adornment. They're going to pick specific adornments for whatever reason. So really like this AI setup. Really enjoy playing with the Works of Wonder expansion. In my opinion, it put things a little bit more back in the player's favor. I was getting crushed against the AI playing with just artisans, but now combining them all together, I'm having more success. So keep an eye out for a full solo playthrough, again using Works of Wonder, Age of Artisans, Architects of the West Kingdom, whole 9 yards. If you have a specific AI or player board you would like to see in the playthrough, please let me know in the comment section below. I'm happy to try those people out. And that's pretty much going to do it for today. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, please consider subscribing to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.